most amazing human beings that walk the earth. The best of the most perfect student of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that is Imam Ali alayhi salam. He's born on the 13th of Rajab, 23 years before the Hijrah in Mecca, and this is the year known as 30 Amul Fil. His mom, Fatima bint Asad, goes to the Kaaba to pray for the safe birth of the child that she's expecting. She goes to the wall opposite the door of the Kaaba and leaned against it in dua. Suddenly there's a crack in the wall, and this mark is still there today. It appears every time somebody tries to seal it. It lets her in, and it seals itself after she has entered. News about the event spreads throughout Mecca, and the keys to the Kaaba are brought. They try to open the doors, but they do not work. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was away from Mecca. 3 days later he returns and he goes to the Kaaba. The locks fall open. He takes the child from Fatima bint Asad, and it was then that Imam Ali alayhi salam opened his eyes for the first time. His mother had called him Haydar and Asad, but Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam called him Ali, saying it was a name from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Soon after his birth, the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took him to his own home, raising him as his own son. He fed him, he washed and dressed him. Imam was later to say, I was still a young child when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took me from my parents. I used to cling to him. Each day a new aspect of his character would shine out, and I would accept it and follow it as a command. A teacher is recognized by his or her students. And if you want to see the glory of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you want to see the true character of Rasulullah, all you need to look is at his most perfect student. You know, George Jordache is a famous writer from Egypt. In his book, Ali alayhi salam, speaker of human rights, asks, this is the question he asks. He said, have you heard about any king amongst the kings of the world who had all the wealth and resources at his disposal, which no other ruler could get? And then too he chooses for himself a life of suffering and sorrow, although he belongs to the noblest of all the clans, and his genealogy was accepted as the most pious amongst the world. And he says, like his teacher taught him, no honor is nobler than humility and kindness. Advising his friends, he would say, if you are my friend, wear the dress of a destitute. About himself he would pray, O my Rabb, forgive me for the mistakes that people are not aware of. While he punished his admirers for calling him divine, he gave brotherly advice to his enemies. He did not approve of reprimanding people for their misbehaviors. His opponents created enmity with him, wronged him, they spoke ill of him. They came to fight him, and still people heard him saying, oblige your brother by warning them, correct them by showing favors and giving them favors. He would say, you should tie the knot of love and affection with your brother, remembering that your brother is not strong enough to break the knot, nor is he capable of harming you. When people advised him to treat the oppressors, who had become very strong in previous regimes, kindly, so that they may not weaken his government, Ali alayhi salam would say, your friend is he who saves you from ills. Your enemy is he who induces you to do bad deeds. Adopt truthfulness, even if you're the loser. Avoid telling lies, even if they profit you. When someone who was under his obligation came to fight with him, he said, if a person does not acknowledge your obligations, you should not stop obliging them. When he was advised to behave like other rulers, to win over his enemies, he would say, whosoever's heart is overpowered by sins is not a victor. Whosoever succeeds through bad means in reality he is a loser. So much you learn from him. And remember, what you hear from Imam Ali alayhi salam are the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam manifested in his behavior. It's amazing. Do you know any religious head who gave orders to his officers in these words? People are your brothers, either because of your religion or are equal to you because they are the inhabitants of the earth like you. Forgive them, overlook their mistakes, as you expect the same attitude from your Rabb. When his 11,000 bloodthirsty enemies prevented him from drawing drinking water from a river so that he and his soldiers may die from thirst. When he conquers the river after a bloody fight, he invites his enemies to take water, just as he and his people were drawing water. He allows them to carry with them as much water as they like, and he says, a person who dies fighting for the cause of Allah will not be rewarded as much as the person who forgives his enemies and does not take revenge. Do you know such a king who gave away his kingdom to establish truth? Or a rich person who chose only a bread of barley for his survival, and life to him was meant to be spent for the benefit of humankind? Have you ever found in the history of the universe a person whose heart was redundant with elegance, generosity, affection, and compassion? He was surrounded on all sides by greedy, selfish, disobedient, malicious, merciless power seekers, who, though divided amongst themselves and cutting each other's throats, only to destroy him. And he, with his statements full of love and kindness, invited them towards peace, safety, and security. Such a big personality. What Ali alayhi salam understood 1400 years ago is now being debated by scholars of East and West. A comprehensive mind which recognized the basic fact that caused the formation of a collective society. Look what he said 1400 years ago. If a person is hungry, then his share has been taken by another. Wherever I have seen abundant wealth, I have noticed along with it somebody's right usurped. And his intelligence and eloquence, all you need to do is open Nahj al-Balagha. Absolutely amazing. The greatest thinker of all the great thinkers of the world. A well-wisher who proved a better well-wisher than all the well-wishers of the world. The most learned amongst all the scholars of the world. His compassion, no match to it. A sharer of grief of all the grief-stricken people. In calamities, he was a companion of the sufferers. He taught morals to the moral teachers of the world. To the brave, he taught the art of fighting. For speaking truth, he risked his life. I wouldn't know where to start. Every single aspect of the life of Ali alayhi salam is a lesson for those of us to whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses in the Quran, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولُ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Indeed, in the Messenger of Allah, you have the most excellent example. If you want to see someone who followed that ayah of Quran to the T, then all you need to look at is the life of Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam.